Good morning. I'd like to welcome everyone to this special board meeting for today. And at this time, I'm going to ask everyone to please stand as we do the Pledge of Allegiance. Flag is there. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, we will have the roll call coming from our board clerk.
Yolanda Clark.
Present.
Maxine Drew.
Present.
Janie Humphreys. Randy Lopez.
Present.
Wanda Brownlee Page.
Present.
Valdina Nguyen.
Present.
Stacy Yeager.
Present.
Thank you. Could I get a motion for us to approve the special agenda?
I make a motion that we approve the special agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the special agenda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, the ayes have it. Thank you. We will now have a report coming from the superintendent.
So as you know, we are in a school district. Now we're moving to online. Sorry. Online. And so what we have right now in front of you, sorry, I was running a little bit, so it's a little bit winded, is the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. And inside of there, it's just giving us some of the things that we need to take into consideration. And I know we're going to go in depth about, your questions and all of the other answers, but one of the things that I would just ask is that we all know this is new for everyone, and yes, we are going to ask for everyone's patience because for our teachers to learn how to teach online, for our parents, our grandparents, our aunts, our uncles, our cousins, whomever the caregivers are, we are going to be giving all types of training versus it's online through our YouTube video. We can have individuals in a room, 10 at a time. So we have multiple rooms. We may be just setting up. We're honestly just flying the plane and building the back part of it as we are in the air. But we will definitely have some itemized issues when it comes to that point, but we will also be putting out today action steps for everyone where it's as opposed to pay. And I know everyone is interested in, pay. We are not doing anything with anyone's pay. Everyone will be getting paid. Those who are working, we're talking about at this point essentials and when is it essential, who's essential. So right now, who's in the building are those people who are essential today. But tomorrow you may be essential. But we can only have in a room from now until April 6th by the Wyandotte Health Director, 10 people in a room. So we have to abide by that. And just know that this is going to be, we're going to be doing some things that are quick. We're going to make sure that our curriculum for our students, which is most important, we're going to be looking at that the remainder of this week. We've got to get principals in next week. We have to get teachers in to actually talk about what does it look like for our kindergartners, first grade or second grade, third, all the way through. I know you have several questions about our seniors and what does that look like for those individuals who are at the community college. We have that also. We will be prepared to answer those questions, but just know that it may change. We will have information for you. And just as for the board, what I will say to you is that I know you've been getting bombarded with a lot of questions, just as I've been getting bombarded with a lot of questions. And I'm giving you information in tidbits. And you're like, oh my gosh, I wish I had more. That's all I'm getting. And so what I'm trying to do is just feed you enough to keep everyone at bay.
Right.
Because we do have another meeting with the state superintendent. Every day we have a meeting, and we get little nuggets out of there. And so from those nuggets, I feed them to you. And so if you will help us, just the information that when people are asking, if you give that to them, and if you can't answer it, send it to us. And then we can ask. There are individuals who we can ask those questions, but I will be honest with you, we do not have all the answers. But what we're trying to do is make sure that we can get an answer for you. And sometimes it'll be, we used to be, on the day we get the answer, but right now we're just asking sometimes give us 48 hours for us to get an answer. And sometimes it's through legal, sometimes it's not, sometimes it's HR, sometimes it's, the health department, sometimes it's, our nurses, sometimes it's communications, but we are all in this together, and just know that no one's holding anything back from you. I wish we knew all of the answers right now. But this is it's just out there. It's just uncharted waters. And for us to be able to go online and teach, that's going to be different. That's going to be different. That's going to be a different type of learning. And sometimes it will have to be paper and pencil. We may have to go back to, paper and pencil, and what does that look like? But what we've talked about with most of our districts within the Kansas area is that some may not be able to get the remote internet. So we do have some conversations going on with Spectrum, some conversations going on with Sprint for the hotspots. We also will be talking through that today, but just know when that comes, and if that's not working, we just need people to let us know that it's not working for them so that we can then find a different source for them. So it's not that that's the only way, the only thing. We're just wanting to know, we don't know where there's a dead spot. And if you don't have internet, we do have opportunities for Spectrum is one that has offered, and so we will be able to give information to that also. But again, at this point, we are open for questions, and honestly, I just say this, there's no protocol for me. Just call me, text me, call the office, they'll find me. I'm usually up at about 4:30 a.m. If you're up, I'm up. Around 10, I'm kind of groggy, but I will find the telephone, and I will get back to you. I get it as a parent. My children yesterday were asking, well, what about this? What else? I said, can we just eat dinner for right now? Mm-hmm. And the little one just kept going, well, is this going on for summer? I said, can we just get through this week? And so I know as a parent, because I'm not prepared to teach my own children, and I know those who are working, what that's going to look like. So we have to really, I see it on all sides. The online, yes, I'm a certified teacher, but I wasn't prepared to teach my own children. And all the answers and the questions. So mom, dads, grandmothers, all of you out there, I get it too. I understand. And sometimes just drink your water. And just drink some water and, just bring it all the way down. Because we're all anxious. I promise you, I am so anxious. And everyone around here sees my anxiety just because I'm a type A person. If you really, really know me, I like things to flow in a certain way, and that comes from that, that math, you're a math person, that there's always an answer, but we don't have an answer. And so we're just having really to stroke people and help them feel good, and that's what we're going to do. And yeah, that's where we are right now. So thank you.
Right. Along with that, just like to say that within our community, all of this is new and different to all of us. And one of the things that we want to do as a board is to be unified and make the right decisions that will affect not only our students, but also the homes that they are in. We're trying to come up with a plan that is going to be quite effective for everybody. And so I implore not just the board, but the community in itself is to support us, to help us, and to be able to contact us and let us know what your concerns are. We will definitely try to do the best we can to alleviate some of the tension, but also to come about with an adequate answer that will help everybody.
And Dr. Faust, I would like to thank you for the ongoing communication as well as other entities because we got information Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And it's like, wow, we're meeting Wednesday, but we know this afternoon, Thursday, Friday, we just don't know. So I appreciate you being open to taking phone calls and questions because as you mentioned to me, we have to also yield to the Kansas Board of Education. When I asked about, hey, is there online curriculum that's approved for us to go? Well, so I'm sure you'll keep us updated on that. And thank you, Ms. Drew. You asked us to ask questions by Monday afternoon to send those over. And amazingly, I was able to get a lot of the answers as the week went on leading up to this meeting. And so I would like to encourage us as we think about graduation. There's a lot of senior parents crying. They're like, oh my goodness. And we feel so sorry for them as well. But I'm confident that you've thought of it, you've heard about it already as to alternatives. But truly, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that we still have to yield to the crowd, or if they say we're quarantined. But, my heart goes out to those seniors who are graduating.
Absolutely.
And I know that we're going to do whatever we can to make sure they have the best graduation that they can when available, so.
Absolutely.
Could everyone speak up so that Dr. Nguyen can hear? She's having a little trouble hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry about that.
Anyone else? Okay. So therefore, still with the superintendent in relation to our board policies.
So I need for HR, this one's from HR, if is Kelly out? Okay, so this one pertains to what we needed to do is have some, relax the policy. There's some individuals, for instance, let's say that because we're online, it's going to be a little different now, but we had individuals who had taken vacation this week, but we are actually not here, so we want to be able to give them their vacation back because they're technically not on vacation. Well, kind of, sort of. I'm struggling through it, but I'll let the HR expert say it.
Yeah, this week was obviously a week for a lot of people to take vacations, but of course, most of that did not occur, and plus we also closed the building. So we closed the building as well. So it really changed the nature of people being, on.
Is it on? I don't think it's on.
I don't think it's on.
You know, I'm an expert at this technology. Turn on that. Is it? Just look it up. All right, sorry, now can you hear me? No?
Maybe grab that one.
It'll work.
Yes.
Okay, let me start again. So this week would normally be a week of vacation for the rest of the folks that are not certified, for example, our 186 employees. So what we would like to do, of course, and we do it when we have snow days also, is just basically not make people take the vacation days that they already planned and restore those days to them, because quite honestly, the building was closed. The school district was closed this week. So that's one of the things that we're asking to do. We already do that, just so you know. When we do have a sick day, we restore those days to employees, because if they were gone for vacation, that's a pretty standard practice.
Did you mean a snow day?
Well, if we're closed due to snow,
and
and somebody was scheduled to be off on a vacation day, we're not gonna make them take that vacation day, right? So that's just a standard practice, and that's the same thing we're basically saying here. Is there any questions?
Yes, the other part is, if there's someone who works in this building, right now, our buildings are closed, except for this one, through the 6th. But if there's someone in this building who has to self-quarantine, that was the other.
Okay, yeah, so the other things we ask for when I guess we're talking about the leave policy. So some of this is gonna get taken care of, by the way, because we're gonna have some guidelines given to us with this new House bill if it gets passed. I think it's still going to the Senate, but I expect a lot of those things to really be kind of almost driven by the government. But when we have people who have to self-quarantine, we don't obviously want those individuals to have to take their sick days for that and deplete their sick days. And that's kind of what the bill is talking about, is not penalizing employees as relates to the COVID virus. And there's various ways. I mean, you could be a caregiver, okay, let's not penalize those folks. You could be an individual yourself who's been exposed, let's not penalize those folks. And so making sure that we are not, our policy currently states that you have to use your disability days if you need to be out. We would relax those. The other thing is, we obviously would not be requiring you to give us a note if you've been gone for more than 5 days, okay? Because we already know that the medical industry has said they are overran. So people's ability to get doctor's notes in this situation will be somewhat limited, okay? So that's what we were originally asking for. I do believe we will get guidance on this, and we will be told as employers that we will have to make these exceptions. So, but that was what we were originally proposing back just a few days ago.
Yes.
And the world's changed a lot since just in 2 days, right?
That's correct.
So that's what we were wanting to bring to everybody's attention from
Okay.
a human resource perspective.
Thank you.
So I have a question. I know our teachers were out this week, but if I understand correctly, maybe our, like our certified people were still in the office? Or non-certified people. Non-certified people were still in the office this week. And we just talked about vacation there. So should we do some clarification of whose vacation will be taken care of there?
Right.
Because-
So we will know those people who put in for vacation days.
Okay.
So I had people in my own department who said, I plan on being out for vacation. The building is closed, so I'm not gonna charge them for vacation days.
But let's drill down a little bit deeper. So were our custodial people off in the schools this week? Or were our
Some
technical
could have.
people?
Yes, some
Okay.
could have, if they are 12-month employees,
Okay,
some of those could have put in this week for vacation.
Yep.
However, because the buildings were closed, well, just similar to a snow day, then what we want to say is that they not be penalized for that, because we actually sent individuals home, and only those who were essential employees for the past 3 days have been here.
okay. I just wanted to be sure that we,
Yes.
because there's different layers, of course,
Yes.
as you know, so,
Yes.
Right.
okay.
Yeah, so custodians are our full-time.
And I just picked on them. They came to mind for me because they have to do a lot of cleaning right now, so.
Ms. Page, I don't know if this is the time to ask this question, but my concern, and I got a lot of phone calls from classified staff who, the janitors, the food service workers, I don't know how we're gonna do that, but it just seems like the right thing to do is to pay people.
Well,
This is
yes.
not their fault, and they tend to only get paid when they show up for work.
So according to the state, and that's one of the things that we were, everyone.
Okay.
Because we will be using them. While we're off, we have to do the deep cleaning in addition to, we're going to do summer cleaning.
Okay.
And so those individuals, and then we're going to be talking later about the meals, and we're
Okay.
going to be feeding students and the drop-offs. So the nutritional individuals, they're saying they may not be working, let's say if they have 4 hours a week, or 4 hours, not a week, but 4 hours a day, or however many hours a day, that's what they're expected to come in and work, because they've got to prepare those lunches and we've got to do the drops. And so bus drivers who, they won't be picking up students, but we can now move them to, it may be facilities to do something there, but we are still paying individuals. They have to come to work. When I say come to work, they have to do the work, but yes.
Okay, because that was a big concern.
Yes.
And we just wanted to make sure we can make them feel at ease.
Absolutely. That was.
Know that you still will be getting a check.
Yes.
In some form.
Yes.
And that just shows we're concerned.
We
and
are.
don't want them to think,
Yes.
well, you don't come, you don't
Right.
get paid.
No.
We want to do the right thing.
Yes, thank you for asking that, because we were definitely clarifying that, and that was part of our questions yesterday with the state superintendent, and making sure that business goes on the payroll side as normal.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
I have a question.
Right.
He's on the,
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, Dr. Nguyen.
There was a concern also mentioned about paras.
Yeah, those folks who, what we're saying, is those folks who are regularly scheduled to work in our district, we are going to be taking care of those individuals, and we will be looking at how they do work going forward. We don't have all those answers today, but we are going to make sure that our employees are handled, or taken care of, and continue on with compensation.
yes, there's not, no one should not, if you were employed by us, worked your hours, what may happen is you're reassigned to do a different job. Because of course with paras, they will receive a paycheck. We have to do that through, that's part of the federal and state.
Yes.
Right, because the legislation we passed yesterday, while it's not in the statutes, there was, and I'm sure Dr. Faust, you're aware of this, if you now you will be when the bill is signed, that the House put in language that said it is a legislative intent that all employees, and it specifies a handful, but it states not limited to, will be paid.
Yes.
There was also discussion that perhaps here's an opportunity to hire.
Okay.
That's a good choice.
Hello?
I said, okay, yes.
Yes, we like hearing that.
Yeah, we are thinking about all those things actually right now. So it's a little bit difficult because work will look different for a while. We don't have all the answers, but we are planning forward.
And that's what we want all our employees to understand, is that you may not be doing the same job that you were doing 2 weeks ago. So we may have you doing something else, but just understand that you've got to be patient with us.
What about, I know subbing is a little different, but if I were a sub and I wanted to do something, is that a possibility?
Well, there could be opportunities. I mean, subs are a little bit different because subs are not every day.
Right.
Now, we do have some long-term subs. There is a conversation about that, and we're working through it.
Okay.
So I think that's a bigger discussion, but yes, I think there could be potential here. We just don't know yet.
That's
Okay?
fair.
And so, someone did email me and ask if we're low on teachers, although they're retired and want to come back and maybe help teach online. They were looking for the link, I said, well, I'm sure it's not out there right now, but if you would help update us, if there's a link for those who may have taught with us math or those special areas that we may need help with. Yeah,
We're not there yet.
right.
Because we've really got to work through what the plans are going to look like. We just, I mean, this is just yesterday, right?
Right, yeah.
So it's going to take a couple of days. We're telling everybody to please just be patient.
Right.
We are thinking all these things. So I do think new opportunities could exist.
And even just speaking on the teaching side, the state has tapped into 25 teachers across the state to write curriculum. One of the things that I do know we already use in our district is Khan Math.
Oh, yeah.
And Khan Math has found itself to be, and that's KHAN. It's a free resource for our students, and they can get on it as early as kindergarten all the way through calculus. And it will do the self-teaching where the teacher can release certain aspects for the student. And so, for instance, let's say you're in lesson 1 and you don't do well in lesson 1, it automatically checks it for you and then puts it back, and it does a tutorial session for you. So we are going to be looking deeply at, math and Khan, and because we want to make sure that it's viable for them. And then, of course, we have a lot of teachers who, when it comes to online and technology,
Yes.
that's going to be, they're going to have some anxiety behind that also, because not everyone is as technologically savvy when it comes. They may be able to teach, but when you have to look at lessons online, it'll look different at the high school because they have Google Classroom, and so they've done that for years, and so the teachers understand that. But our middle schoolers and our elementary teachers, that's not an everyday thing for them. So we're going to try to help and make that as unsophisticated for them as it can be. But I do know that Khan Math is something that we're really looking into, and I would actually recommend, all of you just go, you can go and look at it, but it's a really great resource for students and for parents. The parents, they don't necessarily have to do a lot, but it'll teach it to the kid, which I think those are some of the things. And then there's some other resources where a lot of individuals are giving us free resources, but we just need to make sure the viability of that. So when it comes to, our teachers, we're going to make sure that our teachers understand the curriculum that they will be teaching, and it will not be the curriculum that they were teaching before. It will be age appropriate. The standards, the national standards will be embedded, but it may not necessarily be standard 203 of Kansas. It's just going to look a little different for them.
And I do like Khan Academy because my child's teacher has been using it, and teachers can bump it up.
Yes.
And parents can watch where their progress is. Or like you said, if you don't necessarily know grouping, instead of carry the one and you group 5 and 8 into smaller groups and group out, they show, kids love it just because it looks like an application and it's so self-taught, although that's a weird word to say it, but truly, if you're not sure with some of the terminology, they will go over the lesson over and over. And I liked it because the teacher could give the feedback or bump up my son based upon his progress. But I still think, as we can also help parents to understand that, or caregivers or babysitters, how they can also help access because, as someone who uses their grandmas for backup, grandma may not necessarily know how to help, but surely she can say, well, get on, log on, do your lesson kind of a thing. So thank you for those connections.
Thank you. Any other questions for
I'm going to
Ms.
ask this
Tishman?
question. I don't know if it's necessarily for Kelly, and really, I don't expect for anyone to know the answer. I'm just saying it so the community knows that we know this is, how will communication happen? So we were talking about Monday, school starts. How will communication happen to our families? Or the fact that we're thinking about how communication will happen to our families.
So great, that's great. They can come in, but I can also help with this. We will be using our normal social platforms. So we're going to be revving up communication. So we will be doing videos. It will be on YouTube, Facebook. We have, what's our other platform? Twitter. We're going to be using, I've asked a couple board members to help. Any other board member, if you want to do videos with us. I even ask if you have a Twitter account, board members, once you see that we tweet something, if you will retweet that because you also have followers. That way, sometimes if you like it, it doesn't necessarily go to everyone, but if you retweet the information, we are trying our best to get this information out. We'll also be using Bright Arrow is for that emergency instant. So we may not be using Bright Arrow as much. We'll use that for, to talk about how the feeding, those types of things, but we will also just be sending information. We have capabilities of email. Edwin and his team, yes, take it away.
And also we have our email newsletter, which you guys know that we've been pushing out information, and that information goes out to whoever is signed up to it. And of course, we have our meetings that we have YouTube, and we're sharing our videos there. So all of our media platforms that we have, we will continue to use those as our source to get information out to the public. And also, of course, our good friends in the media will also assist with us.
Well, what if I'm a dinosaur? Now, in this day and age, I know it's hard to believe that somebody might not have YouTube, they don't have internet,
Yes.
but there are a lot of people who can't afford it.
Agreed.
They want it, but they can't. So how do you reach me? I want to know.
Well, my answer to that would be using our local media sources to help with that. A lot of people are still getting newspapers and reading newspapers. I would reach out to someone like the Wyandotte Daily News to make sure, KC Hispanic News, all of our local media sources to assist, to try to reach every crack and cranny out there as far as getting information out. And also, I would just like to suggest and to encourage, just as Dr. Faust said, we too have to help get that message out, share the information with people who we know.
Definitely, yes.
Who may not be knowledgeable.
Yes.
So this is just a suggestion. I think also all of our students have some type of email account or any of those types of things. Now, I know all of our students don't take their laptops home, but we may want to think about, first of all, I've had questions on, my kid's laptop is at school, and that's where they're mandated to keep it, so we want to think about that as well. But how do we reach a different way versus just, because that feels very distant, I'm just putting it out there, when you talk about something that is so intimate as their education, we want to make sure that we're being very personable in our touch, and we don't leave any gaps with how do I get this, how do I do this, and it goes back to, we have a lot of grandparents raising children. We have a lot of children that just don't have stability the way we would like for them to. So we want to make sure we don't leave any gaps by just saying it's out there, get it.
Do you have suggestions on how to?
Yeah, I do. I just mentioned,
I just want to piggyback on that.
okay,
We have a variation of platforms to get information out there.
Okay.
Other than knocking on people's door.
Okay.
We really have an awesome system here.
agreed.
Now, is any system perfect? No.
Okay.
But Bright Arrow, all of our students and our parents that are connected with that, they can get our messages through email, text, and voicemail.
Okay.
But I hear what you're saying. I never heard of Bright Arrow, so
That's the message.
I'm saying I'm the old person, I'm the auntie trying to help somebody. But do we mail? I know that sounds square, I know it costs more money, but there may be a few people you might have to mail it to or reach out to the churches for those who still go to church
No.
as an avenue to try to reach out. But there's still a good segment of society who doesn't have all this, who doesn't know all this. I'm just saying, can we mail something? I don't know how we do it or how we distinguish if you've done this and they say I didn't get anything, because we don't want to hear that. We
Right.
want them to know.
One thing
we
I would
tried to get in touch with you.
One thing I would say about the mailing, and you certainly could send some mailing pieces out. This has been such a fluid situation. I would be very afraid that if you sent something out in the mail and you get it 3 days later, that it's already stale. So I think you need to get messaging out, but I do think you need to be a little bit careful about not sending something out that's set in stone, because if I send it out today, by next Tuesday, that may not be what we're doing. So just.
But I'm just saying,
I'm not disagreeing
I
with
hear
you.
what you're saying,
Yeah.
but I'm saying there's still, I'd roughly say 10 or 15% who, they don't have this. And I would appreciate whatever I could get.
Right, but you wouldn't want to have something that goes out like tomorrow that says, hey, pick up the school lunches at these locations, and then on Tuesday, we can't deliver.
No, I hear what you're saying, but I would be even madder if I got nothing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the catch-22 we're in.
So-
I hear what you're saying, but I'm just saying, we still got a segment of society. We got to figure out how to reach them.
Well, we do have a call center downstairs.
Okay.
And so that may be some of our paras, individuals where we will have them set up as a call center downstairs where individuals can call in to us if they have those questions, because we're going to be thinking about every asset. What can we do? So that may be the arena for those individuals who don't know. They've read it, but they don't know. It's like, what does this mean? How does this affect me? We can actually have the call center open from 8 till 5. And so individuals can call in. You know, I was even thinking years ago, when I first started teaching, back in '97, we used to have this thing that was called, I forget what it was, but it was the kids could call in for teachers, and we would tutor over the telephone. So there may be, I mean, we're thinking about every possibility there is that we can actually help. But telephone, we can definitely set that up, because it's already set up downstairs. We just have to plug in the telephones for them.
What about teachers reaching out to their students by phone?
That'd be great.
That personal contact
Awesome.
can make a lot of things go more smoothly.
It can, and I think teachers can help settle the storm.
Yeah.
The teachers do have all of their students' email addresses, even the small ones. I was just talking with one of our employees, and they were saying that as Governor Kelly was making her announcement, one of her students' teachers emailed them and was saying, I'm so sad that I'm not gonna see your face, and it's like their kids, it's kind of settled them. So we'd actually even think that our teachers would do that just on a personal touch, because honestly, they do have access to them, and all of our kids have email addresses, every single one of them. I mean, our little ones, but they can.
Electronic communications are really great, but nothing beats that personal touch.
I agree.
And it's more back and forth, and the calmness in your voice can alleviate a lot of the parental concerns.
I agree.
So I would encourage us to explore that.
And I agree, and I see the take-home devices in the next item But I want to say too, if there's any online platform, which may be talked about, my son's birthday party won't be there, so we're going to host an online birthday party. And some of the kids in his class have already reached out and said, hey, we want to come online to the birthday party. So I was like, that would be so great. Hopefully we have an online platform like Zoom or WebEx or something to where they can see each other's face, hopefully. I think that would help because we do a lot of online for my job. And so do we have any contracts with those or in the works?
So we had already reached out. Zoom, the CEO of Zoom is offering free applications or license. I'm doing air quotes license for our district, and we had already reached out on Friday last week. Of course, that's a whole, getting everyone to understand how to do a Zoom. So we'd bring people in to train them how to do Zoom. But yes, all of those are being explored. We have Joe Fives and his team were already on it.
Good.
So I mean, literally, we've been thinking, we've been rocking and rolling. But I agree, you're thinking Zoom and, I think about my own mom she has a hard time with Facebook and can't answer the phone. We do FaceTime. It's like, so getting her to do Zoom, wow. She would call everyone, all the wrong people, but, but we would, we'll work. We'll give everyone some type of, if it's rotary phone, they need to call in, we can answer. If it's, you'll have those individuals who can do the Zoom, but I also believe that by, reaching out to our teachers and giving them the opportunity to reach out to their students.
Yeah.
That's going to help with all, and we're going to give them just a laundry list of things that we can do. We just need to
Put the plan into place.
yeah, and it's coming. I mean, people are actually downstairs working right now. They've been working since Monday. We were ready for, maybe 2 weeks. But, it was a little wrench thrown in the plan when they couldn't come back for the entire year. So that kind of revved up the whole thing. It's like, oh, wow. So it does throw the plans a little bit different. But you know what? What I've shared with everyone is this. There is power in calmness.
Yes.
And even when we don't know the answer, just tell them, hold on, I'll get it for you. And not getting excited with the person, because we will not know all the answers. I mean, everyone's looking to you, Board of Education. I know that you were getting hard. Well, why haven't you closed schools? But they didn't know that that's outside of your jurisdiction at that point. That's at the state level. I had spoken with Dr. Wynn. We had talked about some things what was going on in the legislature and some of the things. And then it was the medical director. They could shut down schools, but people were just wanting to know answers, and I get it. No one knew, but I will tell you this. We're going to take care of them. We're going to take care of you. We're going to feed you and I promise you, if you want to do videos, if you want to send in videos and have us help edit them and then put them out for you, we are going to do that. If we want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to continue, in a educational way possible. I mean, that was a bad sentence, but I'm just wanting to make sure that everyone just understands that we're all going to be working together. It's not you do it one way, but we've got to come together and make sure that everyone, so those individuals who don't have any of the technology, that's why we're opening it up for the phones.
Do we have to approve anything for the review board policy, GA?
Well,
Do we have to approve anything for that one?
For which one?
For the
B.
GARH that Kelly just talked about?
Once we go through everything, we will.
Yeah, I don't know that part of the change that was going to be asked for, I think the legislation that went through the state is going to take care of. And historically, although we've never had this type of situation,
Right.
administratively, they've had the authority to give days back. But if you wanted to formally approve that might make some sense to make it clean. Does that make sense? You
Yes.
know what I'm saying?
It does.
In other words, for example, on snow days, if somebody had already said, I'm calling in sick on a snow day, they got their sick day back typically. Same thing with a vacation day or a personal day or something like that. So I think we would treat this the same way, so it wouldn't be a departure from the practice. But we've never had this situation before, so I don't know if you want to, you could grant some discretion to the administration to adjust used or grant vacation leave days back to employees who took them during the time period that the school suspended,
So that would need to be in a motion.
probably.
Yes, sir.
I think that would make the most sense.
Okay. I make a motion that we govern ourselves as Greg has put it nicely.
I think the way the motion would read is that you'd make a motion to grant administration leave to
To adjust accordingly.
adjust any leave taken by an employee during a time period when the schools are shut down so that they're not penalized.
Right, that's the motion on the floor.
Okay, so we have a motion that that we grant the administration employee leave to adjust during any time period at this particular time. Could I have it seconded, please?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we will grant administration to allow employees to have leave and make the adjustment during this time period. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Greg, I have one question.
Sure.
We talk about Zoom and FaceTiming. Will we need special permission from the parents for their kids to do that for privacy concerns? Since it shows their house and what's behind them and stuff. Just something to think about.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a whole host of things we're going to have to sort out as we start to roll out the plan for providing educational services remotely to students to the extent we can. And we're fielding calls right and left trying to sort through what those are. I think we'll take care of anything like that as it comes up. But until we have a better idea of what this is going to look like, I don't know how we're going to be able to do that.
That was just one concern
Yeah.
a parent expressed to me.
And Janie, in Zoom, you don't have to show your face either.
No.
And you can also not even put your name if you don't want.
I know that, but there'll be children that are not supervised, maybe, participating. And I think we need to make sure the parents are aware of what's going on and that they understand permissions and stuff. Just something, it's uncharted territory, is something that we need to think about before something comes up.
So maybe put in there, the different options or something.
Yeah, I just wanted to.
Yeah, I think as you guys, and you're the ears of the community, you're going to hear complaints or concerns and do the best you can as we get complaints of making people understand that this is a moving target and we are in a tough spot trying to figure out what to do for the best interest of all the kids involved. So just keep that messaging going out there, but at the same time, as things are identified, just forward them on to administration, because this is going to be a work in progress for the duration of the time for this school year for sure, and probably into the summer. So forward those concerns, let them be included in the planning process, and understand that there's going to be mistakes and there's going to be some things we can't address.
Yes.
So just be aware of that. Just because somebody brings something up doesn't mean we're going to be able to address every single concern. We'll do. I guarantee you, not just here, but in every school district in the state, everybody's trying to figure out the best way to do this and the best way to handle all these things. But, I was on the phone yesterday talking to somebody, and they were bringing up issues that I hadn't thought about yet. And so you're trying to figure it out. And one of the questions that I had yesterday was, okay, what happens to the kids who are taking dual enrollment classes? Do they still get credit through the community college? Do they have to continue those through the community college? There are thousands of questions that nobody has the answers to yet. So just understand that. Get the information. If you get questions, get them forwarded in. Keep open lines of communication. And as people are developing the plans, we're going to try and make sure we cover all those things. And the legal issues are all over the place too, not only from the student side, but from the employee side. And that's why everybody's being cautious about what we're
Right.
committing to right now, because I don't want us to commit to something and then have somebody determine that what we've committed to isn't legally allowed or permitted, even if we think it's the right thing to do. So we're going to work through all that stuff. Just, it's going to be a work in progress. So understand that part of it.
Thank you, Mr. Goheen.
And I
Ms.
had
Page.
another question from a parent, and she wanted to know, how will the online schools comply with minutes on IEPs? They were concerned about that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of discussion going on right now about how we're going to handle special education services and to what extent and how that's going to go into place. Again, we're working through that. We're trying to get guidance from the state and from the federal government. We had a webinar yesterday the federal government put on that we had people participate in to listen to what that looks like. You know, some special education services are not going to be able to be done online, right? And, you know, to the extent schools are closed and we can't have schools in session, some services just may not be provided during that time period, and there's not a whole lot that can be done about that. Doesn't mean we're not going to take care of those students,
Okay.
and we're going to get notifications out to those parents, but right now we don't have anything to tell them other than school's closed. And they're on spring break, so we've got still a little bit of a gap time here to sort some stuff out. But the likelihood is that that's going to be a rolling target too, as we figure out. And I mean, you know, when you have a kid who's got an IEP or individualized instruction or needs, we're going to try and take care of that as we move forward. But that's going to take some thinking in terms of how that works. So we'll get there.
And this is a question I just don't know the answer to. Would Ms. Page's question also go to our students in the alternative schools? Do majority of them have some sort of IEP? I don't know.
No, I think the alternative schools are primarily not special ed related.
Right.
But I think that's a different population. But again, it's another.
Ray, can you speak up just a little bit, please?
Yeah, I'm talking into this mic. Can you hear me better now, Valdenia?
Somewhat.
Okay, sorry about that. You know, yeah, as we look at the special populations, whether they are, you know, special needs in terms of like IEPs or if they're in alternative programs or other things, there are all kinds of these components out there that we've got to take a look at and try and figure out how best to serve them. And, you know, part of this may be we get the general population first and then figure it out or what happens, but we've got different groups looking at it.
Gotcha.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Can I have two questions, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Let me back up. Mr. Birch, do you have an update on when the new equipment for the cable channel will be ready or ordered or received?
Dr. Nguyen, yes, I do. We've had the KCAB came in this week. They took a look at the building, the equipment. There's a number of pieces, Dr. Nguyen. So those pieces and the pieces of equipment are steadily coming in. So we're looking at implementing and installing the equipment the middle of April.
Okay, thank you. And second question, Dr. Faust. During Randy Watson's presentation, he said Wednesday we were expected to have, quote, quote, air quotes, a plan. Do you have any update on that at least gives your KCK staff some other suggestions to put into building USD 500's plan?
No, ma'am. So as far as you're talking about the continuous education plan?
No, I'm talking about a plan, well, whatever, I don't know what you call continuous education, but a plan to make suggestions, options to 286 districts to how to complete the school year.
So yesterday, all they were doing was fielding questions. They gave us the outline. Of course, they were sharing what the governor was going to talk about. But all I know is at this point, there are 25 teachers that they have selected. And those 25 teachers, we have one, Whitney, from Wyandotte. Mainly it's all of the Teacher of the Year candidates, they're getting together and creating some type of curriculum for students. That's a suggestion. But we have not been informed as of late, and I think we get on the call again at 12:30 for an actual plan. And I actually have the entire cabinet in on those meetings, and we've not heard any direction as to far as a plan. The only thing they were saying, I'll take that back, to pay, making sure that we are continuing to pay for all employees. Dale Dennis stepped in on that. There was a little bit about the feeding, and we already have that taken care of, and we're going to talk about that later in your questions, the meals for our students. That was part, but it's been, piecemeal because everyone has questions, like our questions may be different from those that are out far west, and what it will look like for them versus us. And so I've been on the telephone daily with Wichita, and we've been talking about what it would look like for the larger districts, the larger urban districts, and how we could make that happen. But as far as an actual plan, we haven't gotten one yet.
Isn't that scheduled for a release at 5 o'clock today? Isn't that what they said at the press conference? They were going to give us an update from that team at 5 today?
Perhaps. So we get on every day at 12:30, and so it's just like it's all the superintendents in the state, and we listen, then they field questions. But yes, they just got that group together on Monday, those teachers, and then so they're writing for 260 plus districts and K through 12. So I think it's going to be, and some of those districts aren't able to do online, and some can do online. So I think it's going to be a mixed bag of information, and I think it'll be something that we can probably pull from. I'm not sure if we'll be able to use the entire piece because it may not be suitable for our students. And
I suspect that it's not going to be anything final or definitive. There's just not been enough time. It's unrealistic. So I think you're going to get some initial thoughts, and then those are going to get fleshed out over the next several days. I don't think you're going to get something, today or tomorrow that says this is the plan or this is the guidance. That's not going to happen.
The only thing I was saying, and Randy Watson may have been just trying to get through the committee hearing, he just stated Wednesday he thought that he would have something to present to the legislature.
Okay.
But he just may have been trying to get out of the committee.
I can understand. But what I would say is that we may need an additional week because we've got to get teachers trained and principals trained before we can submit and have an actual plan. Because that will cause anxiety for principals and teachers if we say, okay, on Monday, this is what it's going to look like, and they have not been brought in to talk, or, we've got to listen to them and help ease their anxiety. So
Yes.
it may be the next week. I do know that we're going to talk about technology next, but it's going to take us a minute to get, so I'm about 23, we'll say just like 23,000, and we don't know if all of our students have their devices at home. It's over spring break, so, I can't say that all of our high school students took their devices home with them. So we may be having to look and see how many need them, but we definitely know that our kindergartners through our 8th grade actually need a device, and so we've got to plan that pickup and making sure they're getting it out. So that's going to take possibly about maybe 2 weeks for us to get. So yeah, it's going to.
Thank you for mentioning that. I'm
Yes.
sure that was a hot question.
Yes. So we're considering, all avenues, and we can't let them in the building to go get it. So we'll be issuing others, and so it's going to take a minute because we've got to assign it to them for accountability purposes. They all have these Apple products, but we do have enough devices for everyone. That is, yes, we do have enough devices. We've just got to have that manpower to get it out to 23,000 individuals.
Sign me up.
So
I'll
what-
pass them out.
So what's What are we?
So this plan here, so I'd ask that the Kansas City Board of Education approve the plan for K Devices Take-Home Program as submitted by Alan King, Interim Assistant Superintendent, as recommended by myself. So in here, what the board approved some years ago was for our high school, so 9 through 12, to have the take-home device. And in school, we have the kindergarten through 8th grade. They use theirs in the classroom, but they're not able to take it home. So what we're asking is that you relax the policy to allow us to give them access so that we can give them a device at home.
And so what I read was the computer and the hotspot.
Yes, so we will be asking individuals who do not have Wi-Fi at home. If they have it, of course, that's fine. If not, then we have about, right now, I think 400 additional hotspots through Sprint that we had given. So those were through our high school, but we are also working with Sprint. And then I think Spectrum also is giving free internet access. So we are wanting to find out who has Wi-Fi and who doesn't have Wi-Fi. So that's why it's going to take us a little bit of time because, you know, we can give them a device, but if they don't have access to the internet at home, then it doesn't do, or if it's a dead zone, that's the other part. And so we did hear about that a couple weeks. We had a conversation with Sprint because they were calling about the low usage rate on them. And so when we pulled our kids, it was that they weren't getting access on it, so they were using their phones as a hotspot, which is through something else. So we have to make sure that the hotspot that's given them, that it actually works.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Faust, this is not a word game, I promise. This is not a word game, I promise. We mentioned home. I just want to make sure, as Ms. Page says, if a child care provider now is grandparent and they don't have that, how are we thinking about that? Because that may change usage.
Yes, so I understand my mom would have, trying to explain to her to get a hotspot and what that looks like. We're going to actually map that out on paper. Okay. So everyone will have directions when we give that to them. And I even understand, it's like they may not understand how to do that, but then we can also, at those sites where they're doing pickup, if we need to do a quick, group of 10, a group of 9 people and 10 just to show them what they need to click on, we're going to do that because I can't even imagine my mom and dad trying to show someone how to get on a hotspot.
Or home may have internet, but grandma's house does not, and that's
Right.
my provider
Yes.
now, so.
Yes, or trying to get your system to now, how do you download it to put their system on? Because
Right.
you've got to log on to that internet.
Okay.
So we will be assisting all. That's why we're going to have to do a downstairs, our phone bank.
Okay. Mr. Covington.
I'm just here, if y'all got any questions on the hotspots and the rollout. We have a group right now in the other room working on a plan to get them all rolled out. Like Dr. Faust said, it's gonna take some time to get them all rolled out. It's gonna be a major task, but the first piece is for you all to give us the authority to do it. And then we had looked at doing the curbside, but due to, we're gonna need to talk to some people. So I got them back in the room thinking about how we're gonna get people in to talk to them on how to even connect to the hotspot. So we're working on a plan and soon we'll have it.
Okay, thank you.
There is something for them to sign to guarantee that we get them back, and if they come back damaged, there's,
We got to tag
Okay.
them and have a way of tracking who got them, so we make sure we get them back.
Okay.
Now, realistically, we're not gonna get them all back.
And that's in every district that
Yeah,
we
that's
worked
it.
in.
You
We
won't get them all
found
back.
in some,
Some will break. and
Right.
We have to give them a replacement.
we found them in other countries.
So,
Just understand that will happen.
right.
so is there a fee that, let's say I don't bring it back?
I wouldn't recommend.
Is there a fee? What, come on, in most things in life, I know things have changed. If I get something, I damage it.
But the problem there is if you get somebody says I can't pay the fee.
Right.
I mean, the issue we've got is basically what we're doing is we're taking the public education that every kid's entitled to come to the school and get, and we're trying to push that out into the home. And so what we're doing is we're providing the technology piece in order to try to do that. So we've got to be very careful. I understand what you're saying, is that they should be responsible if they break it, damage it, all that stuff, and we will put those provisions in there. But I would be reluctant to suggest that you charge any kind of upfront fee or anything like that to try to address it, because the biggest piece is for us is making sure we provide access to those educational services to all of our kids. I mean, that's the big piece. And that's why we're trying to free everything up as easily as we can for those purposes and on that timeline.
And will they have the tracking in them?
I think they all do have the tracking mechanisms in them.
Okay, and so I don't know if this goes along with the lunches or not, or the nutrition portion, but I know some districts were handing out the meals and the devices at the same time. Have we considered that option, or?
We did. Well, we're in the middle of researching exactly how to deploy them.
Okay.
Pass them out through the same line as the food is not going to be feasible, because I need people to sign paperwork. And if you do that, you're going to slow down the distribution of the food, because the food is just drive up, hand, and drive off.
Grab and go.
Okay.
Any other questions?
So just a general question. I appreciate the thoughtful conversation we're having, and I appreciate, Dr. Faust, you encouraging questions, and I know all of us continue to get questions. I'm curious if there already exists, or can we create a central team or hub where parents or individuals, we can encourage them to email or call a certain hub or team that can then triage all the questions that we receive. That way you're not getting, and it'll still happen, right? But that way we can try to direct everyone to one central place to direct questions. So you're not getting bombarded with 1,000 questions and each one of us. So just something to consider. And maybe that's already in place and I just don't know, but just something for us to.
So there's one for the board. We just hadn't had an opportunity to train you on it. But what we can do is put out there an email link where we have people who can monitor those questions and fill those questions for us. I think that would be Edwin and I think Joe Fives. They would be able to create that for us. I think that would be a great idea for people to have something that they can log into, sign on to, and then at a later point we will be able to train you on the program that we have for the board.
Or the call center, so you're saying maybe a week to get the call center environment set up, or longer than that?
I think with the call center, I would have to have Joe here, but I think it's just plugging in the phones and the phone lines, and that's already ready to go. It's like for emergencies. This building is also set up for other, was it not catastrophe or something?
In 2018, when we thought we were going to have to shut down.
Emergency.
We had the emergency plan. You had all this stuff detailed. Are you guys revisiting that to see what things were set up before?
Well, what we would do, I mean, I don't know that Chief Horn is aware of it, but what we would do is it's downstairs. If you go across from the cafe on down that hall, it's in that room. There's a table and you just plug in the jacks. Yeah. So we would look at that, and then of course we put that out there and make sure that you are aware of that telephone for the call center. But we can also put an email.
We can create like an email. We can have an email that people in the community can, if they have questions, they can click on the link and ask as many questions as they have. We can have an FAQ sheet that we can provide for people in the building who may get calls, who go outside of that particular link, and then the call center. So there's multiple things that we can do to make sure that we communicate and get that message out to the public if they have questions.
Because we can bring in, school secretaries, again, paras, everyone who can help fill those questions for us.
But are we using anything from that plan from 2018?
We have not looked at that plan, but we can definitely look at that plan.
Because it had all kinds of things about security of the buildings and the computer storage and everything. I didn't know if this is not the same situation, but a lot of the same concerns would be in there.
Okay.
Chief
Warren, take a look at it.
Yeah.
I want to make a motion that we approve the plan for the K through 8 device take-home program.
Second?
It has been moved and seconded that we approve the plan for the K-8 device take-home program. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, the ayes have it. Thank you.
I'd ask that the Kansas City Board of Education accept a report on efforts to combat COVID-19 and approve a plan for the KCK Public Libraries as submitted by Carol Levels, Director of Libraries, and is recommended by myself. The memo states basically to request a temporary close of the Kansas City Public Library system until April 6th. As you are aware, the board, oversees the library, and I do help her sometimes with the administrative, but as I shared with her, I can't close the library for you. So she'd come by the other day asking, but I was like, I don't have any jurisdiction over the libraries. It's actually the school board who literally has that, and we're getting a lot of flack
Yes.
over the libraries being open, and so that's what we would ask. We just ask.
I want to make a motion that we approve the plan for the public libraries to close.
Is this the time for questions?
Yes, you have.
Okay, I think we should change the date. I mean, if we've shut the schools down, I personally think we should shut the libraries down. Because if they're telling us, in order to take that curve and flatten it out, that we not be in a lot of public places, they're closing the casinos, they're closing, I'm sorry, I realize a lot of homeless people go there, but we gotta be realistic. If we want this to come to some kind of end, then we gotta begin to do the things necessary. And no, it's not a good feeling. I know a lot of people go, but they're begging people to stay home, stay in small groups, don't go to restaurants, drive through. We need to shut the libraries down. They shut the schools down. They should shut the libraries down as well.
The motion is to shut them down.
But I'm saying change the date. This says April 6th. I'm saying shut it down for the remainder of the school year has been closed. Close the libraries as well. We just keep putting ourselves in harm's way. If it's gonna end, we gotta try to do some of the things the CDC, and I'm not a Trump fan, but even he has figured it out, that we need to do something. And we can't be foolish. We do have to wake up. And I know people wanna go, but hey, come on.
I think we also need to have a plan for the library. That's the bottom line. You know, you just can't close it and say it's closed and no conversation or plan to do thereafter.
Does it make sense to make April 6th a tentative date, just based upon not necessarily aligning with the schools? And again, I don't know, not necessarily aligning with the schools, but aligning with whatever the practices are for public place? Does that make sense? I don't know.
Revisit.
Yeah.
We could.
Yeah.
I would think, I mean, so I see we've got something from the American Library Association at our table, maybe helping guide these conversations and working with Ms. Levers to help make some of the recommendations along with Dr. Faust and the board in terms of how we move forward. I know there are going to be a lot of questions, and then also, like you said, working with our local health experts and other elected officials based on their recommendations for safety for our community. I mean, I agree that that's a huge concern, so we want to do what's best for everyone. So I don't know if, I think if April 6th, if we do that at a minimum and then reevaluate whether on a week-to-week basis on what that looks like based on guidance from Ms. Levers and our experts. But I agree. I mean, if it's going to be it's about safety, and we want to keep our community and residents and kids safe.
So I'll modify the motion to approve the plan to close public libraries with reevaluation as the recommendations come from the National Public Library and the local community.
Close them till April 6th.
Yes.
Thank you. I would second.
Thank you. The motion has been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposers? The ayes have it. Thank you. So now we're ready for board questions and discussions, possible plans for the upcoming weeks. as it was already mentioned through Dr. Faust and with HR, they will be addressing the absences of our employees and coming up with a plan in order for us to be able to work collectively together to be able to make sure that we are going to focus on the education of our students within the district. And so that plan will be put into place. There is a suggestion of us canceling our regular meeting on March 24th, which is next Tuesday. Any comments?
I think we need to have the meeting, at least have an update. It may not be a person to person, but call in, what have we heard thus far? Because people are calling us, and true, we're trying to put it all together, but at least if we had some new information to say, this is where we are, this is what we've heard, what are your concerns? We can kind of roll off each other. Doesn't that, to me, be a person to person? But at least get on the phone, call, give us an update, and go from there.
So like a special updated status meeting?
Whatever you want to call it, but at least meet on the 24th.
Yeah. And there's,
And then we still have regular business to conduct.
that's what I was going to say, Valdinia. While we have to address the emergency that's happening now, we still need to address regular business. And we can't just call it to a halt, just like the government, the federal government can't call everything to a halt. The state can't either. We still need to do that. If some board members would prefer to call in to the meeting, that is fine, but I really think it's important that we show we are on top of everything, not just the current emergency.
Okay.
And then the question becomes, how do we run that meeting? Because if they're saying no more than 10 in a group, and I know there's laws about the meeting, how do we do that and at the same time protect ourselves as well as take care of the business of the board?
So there's a couple different ways we could approach it. One, we can have a meeting as long as we limit the people in the room to 10, and that creates problem pieces. It has to be an open public meeting, but the meeting can be noticed up to be by video. The meeting could be noticed up to be by telephone. You would have to have people have access to a dial-in number for it to be a telephone meeting. That's one option, and there's technology pieces that we could put together to do that in certain ways. That's all that would be required. But what we can't have is we can't have a public meeting where at a physical location where people exceeding the numbers the state, or not the state, but the local governments told us that we can exceed. So it does put a cap on it. As a practical matter, I think by statute, the board's required to meet once per month. You're not required to meet more than once per month. So I just throw that out there in terms of the business operations. That's what you're required to do. Now, again, that could probably be suspended due to the current situation, although you'd still have to have approval to pay your bills and things like that. But those could be done in fairly short meetings that would just cover those pieces of it. But you're going to have some things to look at as a board. I'm not sure you're going to have them by Tuesday. And, just so you know, I mean, your folks from spring break are getting back next week, so the real heavy planning is probably going to be next week. And then one other thing I would just kind of keep in mind for you is, while the public messaging is very important and getting information out there is very important, what you don't want to do as a board is tie up all your administration with public board meetings so that they can't get the planning done that they really need to be spending their time on. That's why getting things like the call center set up are important, so that it's not, so that your main administrative staff is not the ones fielding all the calls. They need to be involved in the planning and figuring out what to do so they can get that done and then have the messaging go out. So just be careful we don't over-meet and not get the legwork done that needs to get done so that we can have this roll out in a timely fashion, because that's probably more important.
Okay. Any other comments?
Just that this seems to be working this morning with us in the room and people coming in as needed during, so it wouldn't be like regular board meetings where we have all the staff on both sides of the room.
It's working. But the issue you have is, you've got to make sure there's access for the public to come in and either observe or listen in or hear the meeting. So, you can't, you got to be careful about how you do that. And so I think that the main piece is to get some notice up, probably by telephone, where people could call in and listen to the meeting as it goes along. I think that's.
Community College did theirs yesterday.
Well, the community college yesterday had theirs. They had it. Technically open, although it's limited by the capacity and by the restrictions. So.
Because they put on their website that no public would be allowed.
Yeah, but that's not really exactly how it was done. I mean,
Okay.
no public was allowed to come into the meeting space because you were running against the restriction imposed by the health department, just like here. But what that means is you've got to provide some other access for the public to listen in or to observe the meeting in some way, shape, or form. So that's the open meeting component of this. And you got to have that as part of the notice. I think a call-in number is the easiest way to account for that and keep it as an open meeting, for whatever it's worth.
And do we have the capacity for that right now? Do we?
Well, yeah, we've had meetings by phone before where even board members have called in, and you just have to have another access line for the public to call in and be able to listen in for the meeting.
I'm going to call in now. What are you talking about?
Exactly.
But the connection is a little shaky.
I wonder if, so I spoke with Dr. Faust yesterday, and he knew I was going to live stream. I spoke with Dr. Faust yesterday and let him know, or asked if I could live stream via Facebook for my own page, which is what I'm doing now, so people can have access to listen and watch. I know there's restrictions at the building with Facebook, but that could be another opportunity that's free and easy to do to get people to have video.
Yeah, I mean, a service like that, I think even like the Zoom meeting, if you wanted to do video conference meetings, has a component where you can have the public, or they've got like an observer piece of it where they don't get to interact in the meeting, because that's the other problem. If you have like a conference call, well, and everybody calls in, they can interrupt or disrupt it. But the conference services that the district uses, and we've got ones we use in our office, will allow or permit there to be restrictions on what the people on other lines can do. In other words, they can't speak; they just get to listen in. But there's all kinds of things we could do to make it an open meeting without having people physically be able to walk in the door and stand in the meeting room. We could televise it. We could put it on any kind of social media platform that's out there. We still do put the meetings out on YouTube, which they're not live, but they could be. Certainly the telephone piece, and I'm thinking more of the folks that Wanda's talked about, who don't necessarily have access to Facebook or other things that would have restrictions. And the one issue with like a Facebook that maybe prevents it from being a complete open meeting is, in order for me to watch it, I've got to sign up to Facebook. And so if for whatever reason a member of the public didn't want to sign up for Facebook, that's restricting them from attending the meeting or being able to observe the meeting. So I think you could do a combination of those things. There's a lot of ways you could approach it. And one of the things that some boards are doing so that they allow to free up space for other administrators to be present at the meeting is they have some board members attend in person and some not attend in person. So that some of them are on the phone and some of them are physically present, just rotating that. Again, with the idea that if only 10 people can be there, you got to allow some ability for somebody to video the meeting if you're going to video it or record. You got to have some technology people around. all of a sudden your numbers get really small because you got 7 board members, superintendent, board clerk. That's 9. So, one more, you boot me out unless you're going to do an executive session. But if you include me, that's 10. So that's nobody else. So just that's the problem. So it's workable. We can figure out a way around it with technology. And then the notices become very important for those future meetings to make sure the public knows how they can access the meeting and listen to it or watch it.
Okay, comments from board members, please.
Could we ask Edwin and Dr. Faust to come up with some suggestions to present to us Tuesday on how we can, with Greg's input, have an idea of what to do for future meetings?
So can I just add one thing?
Before you speak, may I?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What I would, after listening to everything that has been said, particularly with Mr. Goheen and explaining to us, right now, there's a plan in place. It's not ironclad, it's not locked in. We are in an emergency situation, and what we're trying to do is find a way in which we can accommodate everybody. And what piqued my heart was when he mentioned, right now, the staff here is trying to put the plan into place. My suggestion is, considering everything that we have heard, we only officially have to meet at least once a month. I am suggesting that what we do is we not meet on the 24th, give them time to put the plan into place that they are trying to implement across the board everywhere. If there has to be a special meeting before April 14th, which is our next board meeting, then I would suggest we put one at that particular time. But we've heard so much, there's a lot of things going on. Let's give them time to implement what needs to be done. We can come back on the 14th if necessary, or prior to that, and do what is necessary. But we have to give them time to work. That's my suggestion. And I'm willing to listen to anything anyone else might like to say as to how we can implement this. This is new. This is not a standard thing that has happened. And it has to work out a way in which Dr. Faust, the administrators here, and his team can implement the plan. But if we can wait as a board, I suggest we wait and let them put it into place, and if necessary, have that special board meeting again.
My challenge, Maxine, with that is that the legislation and the conversation that the K-12 Budget Committee had with Randy Watson, one comment was made that we are a local control state, which means the local control, the board has to approve that plan before, and whether some have to submit a waiver, some may not. That's not the issue. But because this is ongoing, implementation may be over a month. So I say we meet, staff doesn't have to be there, half on, half off, but if nothing else, for an update of what we've done. I mean, we have to be on the ground with our administration.
So can I ask one question or give maybe some insight? I think this would be a great time for the committees to be a part, the academic committee, as we're putting this together, and then you could also update the board, because that's technically what the committees would do. We can also create a communications committee. The only problem that I'm foreseeing, and I mean we can work through it, is that next week on Tuesday we would have an agenda review, probably Thursday, which would be tomorrow. And then on Tuesday we'd be meeting, and we're still.
We can go for the 31st, but the 14th is much too far. Not to have any.
Right, I agree. I'm saying if we would do a call, or do a special meeting of such, I think we can work that way. I just want us to be able to have the pertinent information for all of you because I don't think we'll have a plan but it'll be something in the works because next week what we're looking at is bringing principals in, training.
Well, I'm saying you can even have the meeting for the 31st.
Okay.
Take that next week to work.
Okay.
So your recommendation, Valdinia, is for us to move the meeting to the 31st?
Sure. At least that we know there's going to be some communication, and it's not, the 14th is too far.
So is that a motion?
I think technically.
Sure, I'll make the motion, but I don't think discussion is over yet.
Oh, sorry.
I think technically.
I don't know.
Oh, Susan is.
Remember, I'm on the
Speaking
phone.
to the mic, speaking to the mic, please.
Technically, you'll have to move to cancel the meeting on the 24th and then set a special meeting on whatever date you select.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct. And I think Valdinia's suggestion makes a lot of sense because that gives the administration time to get folks back, put a plan together, and then be able to have some real information to present to the board on the 31st rather than, I'm afraid Tuesday's meeting would be a repeat of today in some respects without any real new information. And that doesn't mean you can't have communication pieces going out in between now and then. But I think you'd be better served to make sure you actually know what you're going to be saying publicly rather than inconsistent messaging.
What about the regular HR report, payment of bills and stuff that would be coming before us on the 24th?
There won't be any because we've been on spring break this week, so they're set. There won't be those actions to take.
Okay, I just wanted to check on that.
Dr. Wynn, thank you for that suggestion.
I would like to make a motion that we cancel the meeting for March 24th and reschedule for March 31st.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we will cancel our board meeting for March 24th and reschedule a special meeting for March 31st. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you so much. Any other comments? With that, this meeting.
Hey, before you leave, what did you find out about your reason to believe event? I already know the answer, just asking.
Dr. Faust, you mentioned a communications committee. Was it your suggestion that the communications committee come from the board? Is that what I was hearing, or?
No, I said, I know the answer. What's the status of the reason to believe event?
Good morning, Dr. Wynn. This is Crystal Watson. The Reasons to Believe event has been canceled. The venue canceled as of 2 days ago. So we will send a notice out to all of the honorees. It has been rescheduled, but we can push that date back. So we're looking at doing Reasons to Believe in the fall.
As I said, I knew the answer. I just didn't know it hadn't been verbalized.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Faust, my question was communications. You had mentioned the communications committee. So are you recommending or suggesting that the board have a communications?
Well, I did an informal communications committee, but if the board would like a formal, I think you would have to, whatever the procedure process is for the communications. That's, at this time, I just believe helping and getting information out, being on video and all those great things. If those of you, I guess maybe I shouldn't call it a committee, if you want to partake in doing video with the team and sharing the tweets, we give you the tweet and you also send out the tweet, we can definitely make sure that happens. You just let us know.
I would like to be part of it.
Okay, that works.
Randy, since you speak Spanish?
Yeah, I've spoken with Dr. Faust, and we're working on some communication stuff with the team, so thanks.
I'll help as well. I don't know if I missed my opportunity or if this is an appropriate question. I may be the only one that does not know this answer. We talked about salaries earlier, and our staff will be taken care of. Does that include our libraries as well? I just want to clarify. Okay.
Yes, it does.
We also had information about the feeding, the meal plans. So I think that may be something that we want to discuss. I guess as a question, if someone would ask the question, we can answer it for you.
How will meals be distributed?
Great question, yes.
Currently, the plan involves 4 different locations. So it would be Arrowhead Middle School, Wyandotte High School, Schlegel High School, and J.C. Harmon. And so that would pretty much put a distribution area all over the KCK area. It would be much like a curbside pickup. That way we could, of course, recognize social distancing. We do also have to recognize the fact not everybody has a vehicle. So there will be some opportunities for people to walk up if they need to. We will have police officers in the parking lot kind of directing traffic and also directing walkers as to where they need to go. So there's not too much of a problem.
Can you repeat those locations again, please?
Arrowhead Middle School, Wyandotte High School, Schlegel High School, and J.C. Harmon.
Thank you.
We do have a couple of possible backups if needed also.
And what's the time?
11 o'clock to 2 o'clock, Monday through Friday. Proposal would be to start on Monday, the 23rd.
How are we addressing our students who have special dietary requirements?
This is going to be much like any food that they would be getting in the lunchroom. It would follow the same guidelines. It includes a milk and everything else, so.
Well, we have students that have peanut allergies, they have milk allergies. They get special lunches. How are we going to serve them?
We don't serve peanuts. Like those, it's the same, so it would literally limit. So in the cafeteria, we never put any peanuts or like the milk. It's literally, it's the specialized, the same federal, it follows the same federal guidelines as if they were in the cafeteria with a sack lunch.
But we furnish specific meals to some students' dietary needs. Are we going to still be able to do that or not? Josh would probably have a better idea on that. There are some students that get special meals from food service.
Okay, then I'm sure they will definitely take that into consideration. The other part is, by federal guidelines, we cannot give a meal to a parent. It has to be a child, the child has to be accompanied. So I want to make sure everyone understands, if they're saying they wouldn't give it to me, my child, by federal guidelines, we cannot give a meal to an adult. It has to be, the child has to be with the parent.
Right. So will someone check on the special dietary ones?
Yes, they will.
Yes, we will do that.
So question, thank you for putting a plan together, and I'm sure again, this is uncharted territory, so we're trying to figure it out, right? So I'm sure you're going to be evaluating as this moves forward to see what's working, what can we do better, differently. And I wonder, bus stops, can we do bus stops, locations where kids walk to regularly anyways? And so is there a way to transport food to those select certain bus stops in different communities? I mean, that's something I've seen in other communities. And I know you and your team are looking at everything that's happening out there, so.
Well, it's funny because, I'm part of the communications team, and I just happened to kind of get thrown in with the nutritional folks as they were planning this out, so I have to give all the kudos to them and the hard work that they have put into this whole thing. But one thing that they did look at is the fact that we only have 7 refrigerator trucks. And so that's where this whole thing comes into play. Actually, I think it's 8, but one's in the shop. And the idea is at each one of these locations, you would basically have 2,000 meals. But some locations are going to be busier than others, so we have to keep one of those trucks basically able to roam around, put meals in places that are needed throughout this whole thing. So yes, school buses, to get to your answer, school buses have been looked into. The problem is going to be with the milk. So once we take the milk out of the fridge and have it onto a school bus, it can only be there for 3 hours. After that, we have to throw it away. So we can have a lot of waste if we turn to our school buses. So that was the thought about just using the refrigerator trucks as locations.
And then traditionally, during the summer, how did they do it? Is that pretty much?
So this is basically
what
mimicking
yeah,
that whole
that's what I was
summer
thinking.
feeding plan. Yes, no, you're absolutely right. This is pretty much how they do it.
Okay.
Just a comment, please. And we are not like Turner, but I believe Turner has posted that they are using the buses to stop at the regular bus stops. So how, perhaps, as on some routes, a 3-hour window could not be a challenge if we find that those kids are not being provided.
No,
So my question is to Dr. Faust, maybe communication with the Turner superintendent is a phone call away.
So the only concern that we would have is that because of the amount of students that we have, I think they're around maybe, 5 to 3,000 kids, 500 to 3,000 kids, somewhere around that. And of course, we're trying to feed 23,000 students. That's my only concern is, but we will look into everything, all aspects to make sure. And again, if we're going to have to put that number out there for people to call in. But no idea is being squashed at this moment.
I didn't hear the last thing you said, but all I meant is that if there is a 2-block area where the kids are not getting to Arrowhead or blah 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 blah, then a school bus may be safe, and you don't violate or spoil or endanger anyone's life.
The other thing, and we've got a great team here with great partners in our community that I know have this top of mind. I've spoken with several community partners and agencies that have asked, hey, how are you guys going to feed kids? So I think we've got some great partners in our community that are ready to step up and support. So I'd encourage, and I know you all have those relationships, great relationships with those partners. So let's not be afraid to ask them how they can help support, because they're in different communities that we may not be able to directly reach. So let's, we've got some great partners. Let's work with them.
I would encourage us to explore that, and maybe some of the neighborhood churches could help with that distribution, mainly because they might have the refrigeration.
The only concern I think it would be under the legal is if that's spoiled, if that meat, we're held responsible for anything that happens to those students. It doesn't matter who we give it to. And so that's on the legal side, I agree, get it to them. I'm very much, we actually even thought, put it on buses and we could do that. But then when, Josh comes back through and the DA, the F, whatever the food, FS, those requirements, that's where we get a little cautious and
It would need to be under our supervision, but I didn't know if we can use their facility for a couple of hour time period.
Another issue with that is we're still under the 10-people rule. And if we pull the bus up to some of our apartment complexes, it's 30 and 40 kids will come to the bus stop. Then we've violated the congregation of more than 10 people. So we are researching every opportunity to make sure that all the kids get fed.
Okay.
Try to look at North Kansas City, because they're dropping food at bus stops also. So there are still a lot of options.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments?
I do have a question. We didn't set a time for the meeting on the 31st.
Is this an adequate time at 9 o'clock for, I'm sorry, a regular board meeting time?
Yeah, regular board meeting time.
That's preferred.
Yeah.
Yes, regular board meeting time. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Thank you all for coming. With that, the meeting is adjourned.